originally came in at 2:15 p.m. Initially came in as a man with a gun and shots being fired. We were not aware that anyone had been shot until the first responding officer arrived on scene approximately four minutes later, where he encountered one male victim who was down on the street. Did everybody get the names and stuff that I sent you? That victim, that deceased, is Trumane Gillmore, who is 22 years of age, from Rochester. He suffered a gunshot wound to the head and was deceased on scene. There are two other victims. I didn't know it at the time yesterday, but one of our victims had sustained a graze wound, and I wasn't aware of that. One of the victims, Demontarius Jackson, who's 20 years of age. His birthday is actually tomorrow. He suffered a through-and-through gunshot wound to the upper thigh, and I'm not sure if it's left or right. As well as he had a graze bullet wound to the chest that went across kind of the right side of his chest and also his arm, about 2 inches away from another homicide. And then we had a third victim, Jerome Richard Zachary, who's 18 and has a Chicago address. He had a graze wound to his upper chest on the side. So he was, again, another few inches. This would have been a triple homicide. The shooter was described as a Hispanic male with a red bandana over his face. He had fled. We had conflicting information on which direction he fled, but some of it was northbound and then westbound and then eastbound, actually. So we're not unsure of his exact route. It kind of looks like he circled through the trailer park. I'll tell you right now, we have somebody in custody, and I'll tell you how it all relates to this incident. We had a robbery incident that happened yesterday, late morning, about 11:53 in the morning. We were called to the 300 block at 31st Street Northeast.
Can you repeat that one more time, the address?
300 block of 31st Street Northeast. And the call originally came out as a suspicious circumstance call. The caller indicated that a male was running through her backyard, and when she asked him what was going on, he stated, "Call the police, I've been robbed." We arrived on scene and we talked to the victim, who was identified as first name Courtney, C-O-U-R-T-N-E-Y. Middle name is Eli, E-L-I. Last name is Osegueda, O-C-E-G-U-E-D-A.
How do you pronounce that again?
Osegueda. Osegueda. He is 19 years of age and from Rochester.
He was a victim.
He was the victim of the robbery. Suspects in the robbery, he identified two individuals who robbed him at gunpoint. And I can tell you the investigation into this robbery is ongoing, but two of the suspects are believed to be victims who were targeted in the afternoon shooting. And that's about all I can say about it at this point. There was a vehicle that was involved in this robbery, and we believe that was a vehicle that was in front of the residence at 2313 Park Lane Southeast where the shooting occurred. That vehicle was struck by multiple rounds as well, and we currently have it in the process for evidence. So quickly, in this investigation, our focus turned to Mr. Osegueda. We went to a residence where he's known to stay, or he's lived in the past. His family lives there at 2047 14th Street Southeast. While at the residence, we were able to speak to some individuals and develop information that further enhanced our suspicion of Mr. Osegueda. and in fact led to a search warrant being executed at that residence yesterday late evening in the night hours. While this was going on, we developed information that indicated Mr. Osagueda may have fled to Faribault. Our street crimes unit responded to Faribault and began working with Faribault Police Department in an attempt to identify Osagueda. At approximately 1 a.m. they located him, or they believed they located him at a residence in Faribault, and I don't know the address. But the Rice County and Dakota County SWAT teams responded. The residence was evacuated of all occupants except for Mr. Osagueda. There was a standoff where tear gas was deployed. And approximately 6 a.m. this morning, Osagueda emerged from the house and was placed into custody. He is here right now being interviewed. Right now he is under arrest for being a shooter in this incident. I can tell you that as a result of that search warrant at the residence on 2047 14th Street, we recovered clothing, we believe, that was worn by the shooter, as well as a handgun. The investigation obviously is ongoing. We're trying to figure out exactly the steps of Mr. Osagueda between the time the final shot was fired and he ended up in Faribault.
But at the same time, he was also robbed.
Yes, yesterday morning. We believe he was a victim of it.
So you said that the people that were believed to have robbed Osagueda were targeted yesterday in that shooting. Were they the people who were shot, or do you not know?
At that, I don't know. I mean, our investigation into the morning robbery is still ongoing. But I can tell you that the individuals who were victims yesterday were targeted, and we believe the shooting is in direct retaliation toward a robbery incident that occurred.
But not specifically those two?
I can't comment on that at this point, exactly whose role was what in the earlier robbery. You know, I can tell you that there is some affiliation of all those folks involved at that residence that would be involved in criminal activity. But exactly, you know, who was shot and who was committed the robbery at this point, I don't know.
When you guys responded to the morning robbery and spoke with him as the victim, did he say that he knew who had done it, or make any kind of...
There was information given to us that led us to believe, I can say there was enough information provided by him as a victim that led us to believe that the people that were targeted yesterday were involved in the robbery. So while he was somewhat cooperative, there was obviously a belief by the officers that there was more that he knew that wasn't revealed.
What was stolen, or what was he robbed of?
At this point, I'm not 100% sure, but we believe perhaps money and drugs, as well as maybe a weapon, but that's preliminary.
So in a nutshell, it's hard to put this in a nutshell, but he gets robbed in the morning, he goes to settle a score while they're playing basketball? Or how's it
That's what it would appear like. I mean, I think it just a matter of circumstance. There was a desire for retaliation.
He saw the car, probably?
Perhaps. You know, these folks they know each other, they know where they live, you know, there's an association, they're close in age, people know each other.
Is he talking now? Is he being cooperative now?
He's being interviewed right now. That's all I can say. I don't know.
Was he
I had to
injured?
come down here. So.
Yeah. Was he injured in the standoff? No. And do you know who lived in the house where he ran to? In Fairfield?
I don't know. I don't know if it's relatives or friends or associates or whatnot.
Can you talk about what kind of effort it was yesterday with law
Well, it
enforcement
was an
across the
incredible
state?
effort. I mean, if you were out there, you saw that not only did you have pretty much every Rochester police officer in the city, you also had nearly all of the sheriff's department, and we had state patrol officers from all over southeast Minnesota that responded. It was quite the team effort. You know, when we have the resources, or when we have a serious crime of this nature, we throw as many resources at it as we can. You know, the outcome, I think, speaks for itself. We have someone in custody less than, we had somebody in custody, you know, a little over 14 hours, 15 hours after the incident occurred. So, with cooperating individuals, you know, you can't discount the some of the key cooperation we obtained from witnesses and other folks that gave statements and provided information. You know, that's key in this case. You know, every case requires some hard work, some good police work, a little bit of luck, but if we don't have that cooperation from the community, cases go unsolved. And fortunately, in this case, we had that cooperation, and we're able to at least for the moment keep the community safe.
Now the robbery, apparently, you said it happened 11:53, so just before noon?
Correct.
So, and the shooting was like 2 hours later, so it had to have been just after he talked to police.
Yeah, there's a quick turnaround there.
And then when you said that you found the clothing he believed to have been wearing as well as a handgun with the search warrant, that was at the residence here in Rochester, correct?
That's correct. There are still search warrants to be done. There's a search warrant to be done in Faribault. There may be other warrants done in conjunction with this case. By no means is this investigation over. Children that witnessed this or the aftermath of this, you know, so it's rare that we have this type of incident anywhere, let alone in Rochester.
Did he act alone?
At this point, I'm not. We know that there was one shooter. Whether he acted alone, I'm not ready to say that.
About when did the Faribault part begin?
Well, we had investigators there within early evening last night, and
So everything kind of
he was
moved
located
fairly.
approximately 1 a.m. is when there was a firm belief he was in a residence.
Okay.
Piggybacking on that, how quickly from the time of the shooting did Mr. Osorio come to mind as perhaps a retaliation thing? I mean, was that pretty quick? Like
Pretty
officers
quick,
who responded to the
yeah.
shooting?
We had officers responding to the shooting who also had responded to the robbery earlier in the day, and it was pretty easy to put. Well, yeah, I mean, it was pretty easy to start putting two and two together when it became known who the victims were and other information that officers knew at that time.
Do you believe there's any danger to the public? I mean, the aftermath, right after, or do you think this is?
Well, I mean, these some of the people involved in this incident they have affiliations with individuals. You know, am I willing to call it gang related? You know, I'd have to give you an hour lecture on the gang dynamics in Rochester right now for that to make sense. So I can't say that it's an affiliation. There are certain individuals who associate with the victims who are engaged in criminal activity, and we know that revenge is always something that is being sought. But I want to kind of state that we have the shooter is in custody, so any revenge should not take place at this point. It's obviously no one wins in these situations, and if we do our jobs, that's the justice that friends and family should seek.